Good morning, everyone. This is Friday, April 25th, 2025 at 9:05. This is the meeting of the Contract Review Committee. My name is Veronica Volchik, the chair. And my first order is to establish quorum. So before I do that, this meeting is being held in a hybrid fashion, so all votes will be done by roll call. And establishing quorum up on the screen, I see Linda Williams,
Yep, here.
John Balash,
Here.
Joanna Roach,
Here.
and in person, we have Sue Minthinen here and myself, Veronica Volchik. And from the town, we have Alexandra Richards
Here.
and Jericho Maley.
Here.
Okay. And we do have one member of the public up on the screen, so we have Morgan Baker, thank you. I cannot read the names up on the screen, so please excuse me, and thank you for your assistance. All right. With quorum, can we move on to acceptance of the agenda? Can I have
So
a
moved,
motion?
Madam Chair.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, by roll call, John,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Joanna,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
and myself. Aye. So we have an agenda. We had some minutes. Thank you very much, Lexi, for putting those in order and getting them out to us. I do have one correction, and I have things up on my iPad here, but the last meeting that we had, it was a completely no, the meeting that we did deliberations, the agenda said we were meeting here, but we were over on Fairgrounds. So if we can make that correction, just the location is not correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments on the minutes? All right, with none, we have a motion to accept the minutes with correction.
So moved.
So move, Madam Chair. Oh, second.
Okay, thank you. So Joanna,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
and myself. So with that one correction, the minutes are passed. Public comment.
I have no public comment. I'm just here to be educated and stay up to date on activities in Nantucket. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for your participation. We welcome members of the public, so thank you for being here. All right,
Sign up.
so.
It's fun.
Yeah. All right, so now we're on to a wrap up of fiscal year 26 human services grants and substance misuse. Since meeting last, the FinCom meeting took place, and it was a overwhelmingly positive meeting with good response. One thing that did happen, and I guess my wording to FinCom was that we know that the substance misuse money stream was going to end. I was corrected by Brian, who said that yes, that money stream would be going, but he verbally said that there would be money for that cause. And Jericho, I see you've got your hand up.
Yes, sorry, and I know I did the spiel last night
Yes.
as well. I will be really quick. We will still have a substance misuse grant fund source that will be supplied from a percentage of recreational cannabis sales. We will not have the special stabilization fund addition that we did last year, nor will we have the impact fees, which were ruled illegal by the state of Massachusetts for the previous years of this. And I know our intent is to communicate to FinCom that we would like the full amount of that funding, the 175 from previous year and 650 officially allocated before the beginning of the grant cycle in whatever capacity.
Right, and we will discuss that in more depth further on in our agenda. But so where we stand, next week is annual town meeting. Everyone should have gotten a copy of the booklet with all the warrants. We are in there with our recommendations, and I know that organizations out there are chomping at the bit, and so let's hope that we have the support of our voting community, and we can then go on to the next step, which I know that one of the things that we talked about is we get funded by the town taxpayers, and we need to be doing maybe more public relations and a little bit of marketing. So in the contracts that will be drawn up, and there will be a statement that if you are funded, any of your materials should have the town logo as one of your sources of funds. And the second thing we talked about was putting together a awards recognition. I'm not going to call it a ceremony, but a recognition. So we need to pick a time for that. And I was thinking we should probably do that in June before July 1st.
I'm of two minds on that. It will be official when the agreements are signed and in place. But it will be officially appropriated and allocated after town meeting. So anytime between town meeting and the signing of the agreements should be acceptable. But I'm curious if we'll have the event part of it will work better not in June, just on a logistics framework. I know just in general, it is vastly more difficult to do anything during that chunk. If we could also align it possibly with the Q1 end. That might be like another, just to have it be slightly more separate. I'm just throwing that out there.
Right.
I was gonna say July is not gonna be any better than
No,
this year.
Right.
no,
Right.
definitely not. It would be June or after summer would be the only real
Right.
one there.
Could I have comments from the committee here?
I think it should be after summer. I like that idea a lot. It's just we're competing with too much.
It just feels like it might pop more.
Right.
Mhm.
And also, I think if we do it then, that also is gonna be in alignment for our next round going out. So it could be, we could get a double benefit there.
Maybe be a reminder for the next grant cycle, as well as like a initial reach out for, hey, we're gonna do a listeners information, a bidders information session again this
Right.
year, and that might actually work quite well. Now that I'm
Right.
thinking about that one.
What
I
I'm
had to
thinking,
I had to leave the room, Madam Chair, to go get my agenda out of my printer. Exactly what are we talking about here? What award?
okay, what we had discussed, I think, the last time we were together, or one of the meetings, is that we would put together a time that we would invite all of our grant recipients for fiscal year 26 together and, give them, maybe can do a certificate, or whatever, but just to recognize what they're doing. And, this ties in what, these are taxpayers' dollars, just to have a better face out in the community. So we're talking about an hour event, hour and a half event somewhere, and now the discussion would be after the summer.
Okay, we already give them support by giving them the money at town meeting.
We're thinking more of a PR thing.
Right.
I mean, like our seniors of the year kind of thing? That
Mhm.
big?
Not
No,
that,
no.
not that big. Similar, like a similar kind of thing. My guess is we would do sort of an hour, we would do like a acknowledgement of everybody's work for the previous year. From me, a subtle reminder to get your Q1 reporting ready, and then we could turn it into or have it lead into the bidders information session for next cycle.
Right. And this goes along with, in the contracts we're going to, that will be prepared, there will be a statement that any of their marketing materials, would have the town logo on it as one of their funders.
Mhm.
Okay,
The idea is to let the people in the town know that the town's tax money is going towards these good projects. That's the primary
Yeah, exactly.
name of the game.
Exactly. And I assume that we could probably do this over on Fairgrounds, because what other place does the town really have here?
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing quite,
Reception in the
there's
trailer.
nothing quite as festive as Stop and Shop donuts in the
Yes.
trailer. I'll tell you that right now.
Right.
No, I think we likely could either get the upstairs training room or the community room with a little bit of planning. Is the intent for this to be, and obviously we're well out from full planning, but are we
Right.
thinking during the week, during work hours, like?
yeah,
Can I say something?
Yes,
So the Community Foundation does this and they do it very well. And they do it at the Whaling Museum and they hand out a certificate. And each organization who gets money has to come up and say what they're going to use the money for, which I really liked. And they, it's a real opportunity, not just for the funders, but also because their board comes, right? It's an opportunity for the fundees to talk about the difference this money makes in their organizations to the general public population. And I think that this is a really important thing for Nantucket to be doing because most people don't even understand what the CRC is or that we support these organizations. And so I would say they do it as a cocktail hour, all right, which would incur a cost. I don't think that we necessarily have to do that. We could do it as a breakfast thing, right, where we had coffee and pastries.
Mhm.
I would like to propose that we do it at a better location. So can we volunteer locations? Because you could certainly do it at Mariah Mitchell. I'm happy to host this.
That would be the only way I can think of. Volunteered location would be the only way I can think of that it wouldn't be either here or at 4FG. Because I don't
Right,
think
and I don't apply for or get any of this money, so I'm a neutral party, I think. So I would be happy to host this down at our 33 Washington facility, because that can hold like 60 people and we have chairs and a screen so that there could be a short presentation and certainly space to put out coffee and pastries.
That would be good. Like the Community Foundation used to do a breakfast, which was nice. That was probably, I don't know, 8 years ago. I was also thinking like, yeah, like a lemon press, would they
Mhm.
donate space or
Yeah.
something?
if you're willing to host, then I think that works perfectly.
and
Um,
it also, as a sidebar, it gives exposure to what you're doing also with Mariah Mitchell, which even though you don't receive money from us, but it's an important part of our community also.
where
I'm
would we
just
be
happy to-
doing this? At the
I'm
Mariah
happy to
Mitchell?
host it. Yeah, we can do it down on
Uh,
Washington Street, Linda.
Oh, that's in, what's McCullough's building?
Mm-hmm.
It has to, or guys, we gotta back up. Wherever, if we're doing it off premises, which means out of town, structures,
Mhm.
it has to be handicap accessible, and that building is not handicap accessible.
I don't know if that's true.
Yes, it is. If it's a town entity, it has to be handicap accessible. We can't
I'm
hold
not-
stuff in places that are not handicap accessible. I was on the Commission on Disability for 28 years.
Yeah,
Well, we could do it outside in the front where there's a tent, which is fully handicap accessible.
Okay, so long as it's
Yeah.
handicap accessible, I'm fine no matter where you put it.
and the tent will be up in September?
Yes.
Okay, All righty. Yes, Linda, I think that's an important thing, and I do believe you are correct with that. We had looked at this for something else and it has to be a handicap.
The
accessible.
library thing that we did.
Yes, yes. So, if it can be done outside, under the tent, and we pray that it's gonna be a nice day and it won't be a monsoon day, you know, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay.
All right, do we want to select a date now, or would you have to look at the calendar, Joanna,
I
to
think-
see?
I'd say that's a little, the date specifically, I think a date range is probably really useful,
Okay,
but a specific date might be a little premature.
so we're talking during the week, during the work week,
Yeah.
not on a weekend.
Correct.
No,
I'm gonna throw out a date, right? Because I'm looking at the calendar. What about Friday, the 12th, from 9 to 11? Because I think it'll be a good chance that we have good weather.
Friday the
How are
12th.
parents and schools and people settling in by
yeah,
the
9
12th?
is too early. 9 is too early.
Too early, 10 to
Yeah.
10 to 12?
Yeah, that's probably better.
Okay.
Well,
9:30 to 11:30.
obviously this has to be a declared meeting.
Yes,
Yeah, because we'll have a quorum.
Yeah. Then I think that's probably, that seems fine on Townsend. Like, I think that's, if we lock that in now, it'll make it, that might actually be perfect then.
okay.
It's good for me.
Okay, 10 to 12, good with people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we having refreshments? What are we doing here?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you gonna, Jericho, are you gonna ask Lemon Press?
I'll check, is that where we wanna go?
I mean, I would go there.
That's fine, I'm totally fine. I love the meeting boxes that they do, so that is fine.
I do too. I think that would be great. And we have a
Right.
fridge there and coffee maker, etc. Like
Okay.
usually we
Who's-
get.
Who's
boxes.
paying for this? Who's paying for this?
I
You
would
are.
assume-
Yeah,
I
no,
will-
that's a problem, guys. This is a
Yeah.
town entity. Who's paying for this?
Right,
I will check the Human Services and Council for Human Services budget line items. We should be able to manage a small spread.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's gonna be more than $500.
right. Right. Okay,
Well, then,
All right,
you know, what might be worthwhile sending out, if that's where we're going, it might be worthwhile sending out something to all of our people saying, save the date.
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes,
Well, we can't do that until town meeting
right,
Right.
right, but you know, town meeting is
next week.
next week, and also
I'm in denial.
May is a long way off from September, and that's a great idea, Linda, because people's calendars fill up quickly.
Especially first couple weeks of
Yes.
September.
Yes,
Sorry, I'm fully in denial on how soon town meeting is.
Yeah, that email can be drafted and scheduled.
Yep.
all right, so Jericho, if you can check the budget to see if we have $500, and I will ask you to do the contact with Lemon Press and if they can do that. And then, John?
I just, just as an addition, it seems to me that once we do that, it would be useful to contact either Daybreak or get the Inky Mirror to just preview it a little bit, because that would give us a little extra bang for the buck in terms of getting it in front of people's eyes.
I think we can get them to come. I will invite them to come and cover
No,
it.
I don't mean that they come. I mean, before it happens.
Okay,
Only,
press
only,
kits.
I'm
Yeah,
only
no.
thinking of it that from the publicity basis. That
Yeah.
what we want to do is to get this in front of people's eyes. Even if they don't come, they'll kind of understand something about what we're all about.
And
It's
we're
just-
gonna,
and I have no particular idea exactly what it or how, but just throw that into the mix.
Okay,
no, I
Yes.
agree. I think we'll do press release beforehand. We'll do whatever, like, social media messaging we can ahead of time. I think we should, anyone who has contacts with either of the major media orgs on the island should just let them know that that's going on. And then, we'll also, as it will be a meeting, there's gonna have to be some audio visual component, like we're gonna have to bring a Zoom machine in there and we're gonna have to record it at some way, but that shouldn't be particularly difficult.
Okay,
It's not gonna have to, like, we're just gonna put a laptop in the corner and
Okay.
live stream it, because I think we are best practices for
because
us to
it
record it.
technically is
A
a
meeting.
gathering of the CRC. It's an official meeting and it
That's
has. to be-
fine. We have
Yeah.
that tech, Jericho.
Oh,
We have that
perfect.
tech, so we're good.
Okay,
But thank you for reminding us that it is technically a meeting and it has to be recorded, so.
and I think
And Joanna, your
good.
facility sounds perfect because you've done this many times with other things, so you're all set, so we don't have to worry about AV, et cetera. Wonderful. Okay, so,
And Justin, if, let's hope we have some more, a few more members of the CRC, because it may be a little
Yes.
challenging for me to figure out how I physically just get there.
we will.
And that's, I just throw that out because I know my own limitations.
Okay. Well, we will assist you in any way that we can, John.
I am open to assistance.
Okay,
Okay, good.
wonderful, good.
We'll figure out how to help you get there, John.
Oh, I'll get there.
Okay.
We're hopefully gonna get.
Okay,
another account.
anything more with just a wrap up of this cycle that anyone wants to comment on or whatever? Otherwise, we could move on to the next. All right, because unfortunately, there's more looming on the horizon. Everyone did such a wonderful job on this cycle. Now we
We're
have
giving you another one.
Surprise.
the opiate grant application and review process. So over the last month, I've been going back and forth with Jericho. We have received $55,000 from the town, and they have been gathering small chunks of money over the past period of time. And this money, and correct me, this is a lot of the Sackler
This, I believe, is
settlement money?
Sackler settlement money,
Okay.
Mercer settlement money, and a couple of other organizations that were part of that large,
Right.
those series of lawsuits.
Right, and rather than, doing, 5,000, 2,000, we've gathered it, we've got $55,000. There are very specific guidelines for this, and, it says opiate in there because it is for opiate,
Let me share the screen with the,
yes, please do.
You have something in the waiting room.
Oh, we
oh,
do,
Rocky, excellent.
okay,
That's the health
yes,
department's note
thank you,
taking act.
thank you, Rocky, for joining us as a member of the
Oh,
public
it's
today.
just the AI for the note taking app.
Oh, okay.
We've had it in on a few of these.
Okay. I don't need to talk to the AI then.
Not yet.
Alrighty, so Jericho is gonna put the application up on the screen. You should have seen this advertised in the Inky last week, this week, and it's also for next week, so we're covering the 3 announcements that way. The grant money has been broken into 2 separate streams. One is for treatment, and that is $35,000, and it's for addiction treatment,
Of opioid.
and related conditions, but opioid has to be part of that. And then the second grant stream is for $20,000, and it's for prevention. And again, it has to be applied to opiate misuse and related conditions. The application went live on, I believe, the 21st, and it's out there until May 21st. So it's out for a month, and then we will begin our review and deliberations, and the goal is to have it settled by the beginning of, by the end of this fiscal year, so this money could be accessible July first. There are a few organizations that really qualify for this. Addiction Solutions is one, of course. We're not sure, you know, and
For the treatment and the prevention section, I mean, there's a few organizations I can think of who could who would qualify for the treatment. Like, so Matt, direct therapy, peer recovery groups would also count as the treatment section.
Harm reduction?
Harm reduction would, I would encourage that grant application. I don't know, like, it might depend on the harm reduction program, but harm reduction itself absolutely counts. Either you might even, yeah, that would, I don't know if that would be treatment, but it could be harm prevention. So either would be doable. I think you should, if there is a harm reduction related grant, it would not be ruled out by fiat. It should be submitted.
right, right. So, it is up on the town website and, Jericho, there were a couple other things you talked about advertising this too. And, I don't think we'll have to do a bidders information session, but, I'm wondering if we should, just because it is different.
If it's possible for us to do a bidders information session, but we're 1/3 of the way through the cycle. So what I've been doing is that I've just been soliciting direct questions from any individual and having them contact me directly. And then when I get a selection of like consistent answers, I'm gonna throw them up on this page to pre-answer things.
Okay,
So
so like FAQs.
the first question we had was, can you apply for both grants? Can one organization apply for both
And
grants?
that answer is yes.
So we'll add that up to here, and then any question that I get from any constituent will get added to this page as we go along to like cover it up. It's similar to what we were doing with the addendums on the bidding platform we use for the needs assessment.
Okay, can we, and I'm just, this is a legal question, can we, not solicit, but just reach out to the organizations that we think potentially could fall in this and just send them a letter saying, you know, if you haven't heard, you know, take a look at the website, you know, this is maybe an opportunity.
So we've already reached out to any agency that has applied to a CRC grant in the last, I believe, the last year or two. So anyone who has applied with us and has an active email address that is up to date with us has received notification of this grant. I think we cannot, the town cannot ask particular agencies to send a submission in.
Right.
Members of this committee can absolutely inform any agency that they believe would be able to apply for this, and that would be, I think, the preferred way to do that.
Okay. Alrighty. I just don't want to leave stone unturned, you know, because it's, you know, we'll be talking about it a little bit later on, but we know that there's definitely a, either a fear of loss of funds or evidence of loss of other funds outside of the town coming from federal government, et cetera. So I think that if we have something like this, it's an opportunity. Can I ask if you're sending out, like reaching out, if you can just CC me on that so I can
Follow
just
up
know,
if
because
necessary.
yes, exactly. Thank
And
you.
then if you want to send, Lexi, if you want to send the mailing list that we had to her, so she knows who we've sent to already.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yes,
Just, is there a list of specific criteria that people qualify for this grant? Does that make sense? Because I
Yeah,
feel
no.
like it's slightly different than our other grants.
So there is, because of the way that it was collected from a variety of different settlements, there is not a specific guideline for this grant because it's not one fund. There is a list of best practices and implementation suggestions from Massachusetts that runs to like 50 or 60 pages and does not really give you an answer. It's one of those, you should do this or you should utilize this.
Can I make,
I'm-
can I?
Yeah,
Okay, Jericho, can I make a suggestion about that?
yeah,
Can you take that 60-page thing and put it into AI and have it spit out 10 things that we should be looking for?
not with any consistency. I can pull that document out and I can do I can do a review and give you, like, for our evaluation and rubric, I can definitely do that.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
and like, I'll grab that document, but and do like a summary for when we're doing the evaluation. Yeah, I think that's actually a
Okay.
good idea.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Right, and that will be important for developing the rubric for this too.
The rubric is, so unfortunately, we have to publish the rubric in with the bid.
Right,
So I did a moderate revision of the substance misuse grant rubric.
okay. Okay. So that leads up to, when will we meet for this? Friday morning at 9 o'clock is our time that's available for all of us.
I will be more flexible after the 21st of May.
Okay. So if these are coming into you by the 21st of May, I assume that it's not going to be as arduous as what we've been through. We should have a limited number.
We also won't be deliberating on amounts. They're single awards at those values. So
Right.
we're only giving one award to one agency from each category.
Exactly. So the 23rd of May is the Friday going into Memorial Day. If you
No.
get them in, it's not, we don't have enough time to
Yeah.
do. So the next would be May 30th. Or June 6th. The 13th, but I think we probably
And I
have to plan.
surrender my schedule, like we can do different days other than Fridays after that.
But Joanna, Friday morning is a good time for you, correct?
Yep, I could do Friday, the 30th. If
Okay,
that
so-
works for people, and I could also do the 6th. Either one is fine.
Okay, so if you get them in on the 21st and you get them out to us as soon as possible, we will have a week of time to review them before the 30th.
Yeah, I'll have a packet together for you from these two for all of these by the 23rd. Easy. So then that if you'll have at least 1 week for the 30th and 2 weeks for the 6th.
Okay. I would prefer the 30th because if we do need to have another meeting, we have time to do that with our time frame. Because I'm not sure if this could be done all in one meeting or if we will have to have two. I think we plan on two.
Probably safe, and then that still gives me enough time to get these and the other agreements put together, so that they're ready to go out on July, like as close to July 1st as possible.
Okay, so our next meeting then would be on May 30th.
And do we think we're gonna interview people or just?
I don't,
Sorry.
no, it's a very good
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, because we have offered that.
My suggestion would be for this particular grant, we plan for a potential day if we have questions that we would like to have answered. And that can we would decide if there's anyone we want to have come and do a direct presentation, we would decide by the end of, if we're looking at the 30th right now. So that gives them a week to know that the time comes in and we could do any interviews that we need to on the 6th.
Mhm.
But I want to be sensitive to having a lot of meetings.
Right.
At a busy time, so.
Right. So maybe we plan May 30th and June 6th as a meeting also, and, you know, it's possible that, you know, it'll be pretty clear cut. We may not need to have interviews. If we discuss, then we'll have time to mull it over and then deliberating the following week. So if we plan May 30th and June 6th. Is that good with everybody? Okay,
I can pull that off.
all right, so we'll put May 30th and then June 6th, both Friday at 9 AM. And the topic primarily is gonna be the opiate grants. Right. All right, any other comments or questions on this? All right, you know, we knew that this money was being gathered and, you know, even though we said we don't want to do things out of cycle, this is, you know, hopefully it's a brief and, easy thing for us to get through, and, then we can go on to other things.
It's also a chance for us to test out on a smaller scale some of the proposed modifications to the larger CRC process, like
Right.
the pre-assigned dollar values for grant
Right.
amounts and the shorter cycle in term,
Yeah.
shorter, more constrained application process.
Yeah.
So it's both research for me, and I think hopefully it will give us better, this is one of the better ways we can do to allocate this particular money. The only one concern I do want to mention now is that this is from a series of settlements. This is not an ongoing funding source. Brian let me know that it is most likely we will have one more tranche of funding from this source of roughly the same amount. And then it will be a significantly smaller award ongoing as whatever remaining settlements are done. So we will likely have another opioid grant process, if it's not next fiscal year, the fiscal year after, but it will be, you know, 1, 2 at around the same value, and then they should start trailing off after the third cycle.
Is there any reason it has to be at this time?
No.
That it can't be put into our whole grant?
So it's a separate funding source.
Right.
So we can't mix it in.
Right.
I think we would need to have a different allocation process. I do not know, the reason why this was announced at this time is because literally the checks were rolling in over the course.
Right.
And so we didn't have enough to do a grant process until
Right,
this time. I don't know what the remittance time for the
Right.
next set of settlements is, so I can't anticipate that too much. But I am going to very, very strongly attempt to not have it happen at the very end of the fiscal year. So
right,
as soon as we have a sum of it together, I'll try and get the time so that it's at least congruent with the grant process we're already running, and we're not doing another one out of cycle.
okay, right,
At the same time, I mean, if you're coming from the applicant perspective, like applying for this. What we'll call it, the old cannabis funds and the opiate fund, like, that might be a mess if you're trying to
It's,
propose two
Right.
different projects at the
Yeah.
same time in the same cycle, so.
right, right.
yeah.
Well, let's,
We'll have to massage it.
let's see how this goes and come back to this discussion.
Fair enough.
But thank you everyone for enthusiastically volunteering for this position and doing this. With no more comments or suggestions, we'll go on to the approval of the quarterlies. Thank you for sending those out, and also thank you for getting them to us in ample time that actually had time to read them. Any comments on quarterlies to begin this discussion? No hands up? Okay.
A lot of good work being done.
I have to say, reading these, and I'm not sure if because it's all fresh and, you know, I'm in tune to reading this, but I thought that some of them provided exactly what we want to see. That, it made, just reviewing this, easy. A question, if so, and I see that some were zero, so even if someone has not spent any of the money in the past quarter, they still have to send in paperwork that would say zero, so it's
We-
recorded.
Yeah, and then there may be some reporting terms that still apply, even if they're not delivering services. We're gonna eventually implement a more streamlined reporting and invoicing process than just sending us, like writing on a document. We're probably gonna try and get some forms together to have it be an online process so that when you're looking at the quarterlies, we can spit out a report of them and you're not kind of like going through all of them. But I want to try and make sure there's at least something in each quarter associated with each organization. And then next year, so up until now, I've been focusing on revisions to the application process, application deliberation process. This next year on is going to be reporting and invoicing. Technically, there is a existing grant, well, it's really an existing contracting platform that the town has been using in finance. It doesn't meet our needs, so I'm trying to find partners that have a better technological platform. But even before that, we're gonna look at some forms, we're gonna look at ways to streamline the grant reporting and writing process, but basically, I would like to have at least a goose egg in each quarter, so that it just, we know that they're following along, we know that they haven't forgot what's going on. And we know that like it's still in their mind and it's still rotating.
Okay,
Some of them have already like gotten all their money as well. There's a few, so they just submit zero because they already took
right,
off.
they've taken it all, and there's no rules of if your program is heavily in the first quarter or the second quarter, you know, you can get all your money at that point, as long as you've demonstrated that you've fulfilled what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
So,
We have some specific grants that request only for one season of
Right. Right.
Funding for.
exactly,
You know, you do the work when it needs to get done. I
Right.
don't think that there should be any requirement to
Right.
split it up over 4 quarters or anything like that. No.
okay. What, I'd like to see at the next review, which would be the end of this cycle. I would like just a document that shows in one place what was awarded and what was actually spent, because have some not used all of what we allocated. I think that would be just something to,
We can do those, the year-to-date grant reports, that finance sends, and I can show you the spreadsheet. We could just green and red, green for full use, red for not full.
And yeah, I started a spreadsheet that tracks it by quarter, how much they take out, so at the end we'll see.
okay,
Yeah,
because I think that's good information to have. And have it in a concise thing as opposed to, you know, because here flipping back and
Yeah.
forth from the actual application, what they
That's-
said, and looking at here, whatever, it's just like,
That's a huge chunk of what I'm trying to figure out. The best way to share, display and use this information
Exactly.
is sort of a lot on my mind right now.
I think that the vast majority of anyone that has ever been involved with the grant, you know, it's, you know, you use it and you try to use every single penny that you can. So, I don't think we have a lot, but I don't know, you know, but it would be nice to see that. All right, so thank you.
Yeah, I was
for
gonna say, I
putting it
think
together.
people have started making their applications and programs less dependent on factors they can't control, like you can't control if you can't hire somebody for that
Yeah.
spot, like that's so
Right,
looking for funds to support the same program differently is been more successful for folks.
A lot of the situations when we did have grants that weren't fully expended, it was because of something that was out of the control of the agency.
Right.
To impact, yeah.
Right, right. But, also the idea of the quarterlies is to, if you're having some difficulty, this is a way that they should be reporting back to us, as opposed to at the end of the cycle saying, well, we didn't do that because we never were able to hire, or for some reason, so it would be nice to have that come through. So, and I do see some good information in this, so I'm not saying anyone is in that position right now, but
The other thing is those specific terms that you're looking at in the reporting are ones that I come up with when I'm writing the agreement. If there are specific terms that we want them to report on. So, because I usually try and synthesize what questions we've asked about them over the course of the grant application process, issues that have come up in previous years, things that the targets that they're using in their grant application to define success or not. That's why, one of the reasons I wanted to add those particular questions.
right.
But if there's stuff that you guys specifically want an agency to report out on, please let me know so I can write it into the agreement. It depends on how there's a give and take. You can't ask for anything, but
Right.
if there's something we want to specifically track, then please let me know and I can put it in the reporting.
Jericho, when are the contracts being finalized before we giving them?
So I'm gonna start working on them after town meeting. Once we have it locked in, I have, in the past, it has taken me until midsummer to get them done. I don't anticipate that being an issue now, so hopefully, I will probably be doing them alongside the opioid misuse grant, so I can run by some of the reporting terms I'm gonna put in during that time period, and we can see if you guys wanna
Okay,
have.
what I'm gonna suggest is, for our meeting either on the 30th or on the 6th, if you can give us, because I know we have conversation back and forth with questions, but I would like to share with the committee what the final contract is going to look like, so we can all put eyes on that and see if it's matching. And it's just, we know that the wording for the contract is very important, that if you've asked for this money to, do X, Y, and Z, the contract has to say, this money is being given to you for X, Y, and Z. And so it's a legal document. And so as we go down the road, if we find someone saying, oh, well, we didn't do that, we did this instead. So I guess I would like to share it with the committee also, so,
The specific use limitations of
right,
our
and
reports.
a very specific, so if we could, have one of them that's ready, let us all take a look at it, and I'll put it as an agenda item that we can just,
At the very least, I can use one of the agreements from last year that specifically has a use differentiation built into the agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be able to, we'll be able to at least educate on that, even if I don't have the agreement handy.
okay.
Jericho, have you asked Sunny from Community Foundation? Because she has reports that she uses for her grants that you may want to take a look at, right? She does a 6-month report and a year report, and those might
Right.
be helpful to you. The other thing is that there are, I just know from my own experience, with regard to the use change, right? So
Mhm.
you can sometimes go back to funders and ask for a use change, but there's generally a process for that, right? And an approval process for that. So maybe we need to just formalize what that is.
Right.
right? I mean, I'm interested in looking at what we're proposed. I think, looking at something and adding to it rather than generating it here in the meeting is probably going to be easier, right?
Yes,
So
definitely.
I think I'll just wait until we have something, and then I can kind of take a look at it and see if I think that, it really captures all the information. Because that one of the things that I have been thinking about also in light of what's happening, especially for the local organizations, is asking them if like the percentage of funds that they're receiving, like, has there been a change year over year, right? So whether it's with other grants or with contributions, I think it would be interesting for us to know and track, right? Are they on track with what income they're generating or what grants they're getting, or has there been a change,
Mhm.
right?
And trying to measure the impact of the grant uncertainty is very much worthwhile.
Yeah.
I
100% agree. I don't know if all of you know this, but let me just try to pull this up so I can speak to this intelligently here. There is what is this called? The Boston Foundation is putting on a seminar, I think it's May 6th, that is exactly this, the shifting landscape of grants in Massachusetts, right? It's May 5th. So I don't know, Jericho, this might be something that you want to go to. It's virtual.
Yeah, what's the name of the event?
It's called the Shifting Federal Landscape. Massachusetts Nonprofits Raise the Alarm, right? So it's really understanding what the impact of the federal government's changing grants
Boston Foundation,
situation
got it.
and how it impacts Massachusetts nonprofits. I think it's probably critical that I mean, I'm going to it because we get money from the federal government and we're going to be affected by this. So, and so are some other places on Nantucket, I know for sure, that are going to be affected by this.
Yeah, we talked about that in our Council for Human Services meeting, that I know organizations I'm involved with are already being impacted, and
Yep.
definitely other critical, like, basic needs organizations are being affected. Right.
Yes, and in ways that I hadn't anticipated. Like, I know directly how I'm going to be affected, but I hadn't necessarily anticipated that organizations who get money from the federal government and then give that money to other places, I hadn't connected some of those dots myself. And so some of this was eye-opening.
Right, right. This actually, if we could hold that thought 1 second, because it really segues into our next agenda item. But before that, if we can just wrap up the quarterlies, then we can continue with this discussion, because there is so much overlap here. So, if no more discussion on the quarterlies, can I have a motion to accept the quarterlies?
So moved.
So moved. Second. There we go.
Thank you. All right, so a vote, John?
Aye.
Very good. Linda?
Aye.
Joanna?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Myself, aye. So thank you, and please process those payments.
So if I may, just for explicitly, accept quarterly reporting and, reimburse money.
Yes,
Okay, cool.
yes.
That'd be for the motion.
Okay, so moving on to the next thing, which is a formal request for funding for 27. Over the last, probably in the last 3 months, or almost the last 3 months, there have been so much confusion, change, et cetera, but our organizations that we fund are starting to see some hard changes. I will speak for maybe the more subtle change, but just as Joanna was saying, my work with the food pantry, specifically, a large portion of our food comes from the Boston Food Bank, who gets federal funding. And sourcing, et cetera, et cetera. There's a formula that every food pantry, local food pantry gets X amount of poundage on a month. So our allocated amount has not changed, although we're bracing that may be a reality down the road. But what has changed, there always was what we call free pallets. So they have, beside that, you know, we're getting our staples, the rice, the beans, the vegetables, you know, and there's a listing of free pallets that's over your poundage. That has dried up, so we don't get that. And that's the extra food that has sort of, when things get really tight, you know, we may have Campbell's soup. We have a pallet of Campbell's soup, so we can at least make sure that we're giving out food. That is gonna have a major effect on that, just a little bit of what's happening down the road. And I know that, and maybe I'll ask Joanna if you would like to talk about, Meals on Wheels.
Mhm.
Want to mention that?
Yeah, well, I just happened to, so by way of explanation, there's a group of executive directors from various organizations that meet on a regular basis. And we were meeting a few weeks ago and discussing impacts on funding from federal monies. And one of the things that came up was Meals on Wheels and the cutting. This is what I was getting at, like the WIC money that has been cut directly affects how they are funded. And it seems to me that we don't fully understand the impact of this on the Nantucket nonprofits, number one. And number two, that if they lose funding in this cycle, that means they have to cut services, right? So how is that going to affect us? And is there a way for us to look at this in a broader manner and address it in this funding cycle, because this is an emergency situation? Or is there another way to manage it, right? Because I don't personally have the specifics of like how much Meals on Wheels would need. Is it 20,000? Is it 40,000? What is the number? But it seems to me, and I guess this maybe is a question for Jericho, because we're so close to the town meeting, is there or would there be a desire for us as a group to ask for some sort of emergency funding for these organizations that are going to be very deeply affected? I don't know that it's a lot of money, Jericho, but it could be something that we want to take a look at.
So, two things. I think that this is an excellent question. My suspicion is that we will not get anything in specifically on this town meeting for a variety of reasons. This issue of funding shows is that we need a proper, robust, and flexible allocation system for the contract review committee grants. And I think that the uncertainty at the federal level really shows why we need to have a secure and stable funding mechanism for local nonprofits, so that when situations like this happen, we can react in an effective way. But there is always going to be a limit to how flexible a municipal government can be with its allocation process.
Right.
And what I think this also shows is that we should be working a little bit more on public-private partnership. There is another large funding agency on the island for human services. It does not have the same restrictions as the municipal government. And I think we need to be broadening our collaboration with Community
Foundation,
among others, right? But
yeah.
primarily them.
As we saw just this past week, that has been nicely advertised, Community Foundation for the first time has increased their amount to $1 million from 500,000. they have the ability to turn on a dime. Maybe that's over exaggeration, but you know, we're not that nimble. We cannot do that. But Joanne, I'm gonna go back to saying, you know, at town meeting, you know, and I think Jericho's right. It's gonna be, there's lots and lots of things that are gonna be taking the attention of town meeting, but is it appropriate for us to say, is it possible to vote for some kind of an emergency fund? But we don't have data right now, and that's the problem.
And we
Well, the
cannot-
thing is, I don't think to Jericho's, look at, if we were gonna do anything for this town meeting, it would have to be via technical amendment, and we're very tight on time. This is all happening next week. So I don't
Right.
think that's happening, but what I do think could happen is that this would be my suggestion to our group. My suggestion would be that we write a letter to the select board and to Brian and ask for an emergency $100,000 that would go to the CRC, and that would be in a 30-day grant cycle upon loss of urgent funding, kind of a thing. Like, we'd have to massage this language a bit, but that could go to the special town meeting in the fall, because there will be one, right?
Right.
So
Yes.
if we, because I think the thing that we want to do is think in the broader picture. And to
Mhm.
Jericho's point about knowing how much money we have, if we knew that every year we got $100,000, and that was for emergency needs, right? So Meals on Wheels loses 25,000. The food pantry loses 10,000, right? So that and I think it would really have to be for, I guess, defined as essential services. Like, maybe it would be for the warming place. It would be for really those kinds of urgent things that there would be a serious problem for our community if they didn't get funded. And
Right.
then,
Those are
Well-
considered shelter, food, and I believe there's
Yeah.
a third one.
yeah,
level one, the
Level
level
one.
one by the rubric, or by the system we were using for the
Right.
CRC grants includes food, shelter, housing, and emergency medication. of
Because
medical access.
it's on a different scale, but I know over the past years, when there's been something that's come up, you know, I'll say, Jericho, you know, do you have any money? And he does have a small budget, and he can, you know, I guess it was also that
Strategic.
rural money that you had, that
And that grant is gone.
it's gone.
Yeah.
But we've been able to channel some money because he's got a little pocketbook full. But this would give and it doesn't say it will all be spent, but it's an emergency fund
Right.
that directly impacts people in the community. That
So-
if they don't have that,
I'm gonna
something suffers badly.
devil's advocate very briefly on this. I want everyone to know that this is a solid idea. But the definition of emergency on that has to be absolutely locked down, tight, objective, and not subject to it. It has to be your money that it would have to be something like this contract agreement that you have with a third party is being voided by that third party.
Yeah.
That would have to
Right.
be how we would
Yeah.
define emergency.
Right.
then. And even then, I think it is a very, very hard sell to finance, and to have what is essentially there's no purpose for that money. The purpose is a condition as opposed to a use case. And I know that
Right.
has been an issue in the past. It's
Well,
manageable.
let me just make a point. What you could, I think one of the ways that this is saleable is that
Mhm.
if you say if the money is not used, it gets returned to free cash. Right? Like, there's the saleable point, so that if we don't give it away, and I think the other thing that's really important is that there's a 30-day open and close of this. So if you submit an emergency request, it's reviewed and funded inside of 30 days. Right? And then at the end of the year, whatever money we don't use for this goes back to free cash. Because we vote on that every year as the finance committee,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And you cannot do anything at town meeting, period, this town meeting. Yesterday,
yeah.
and if anybody missed this yesterday, I could use a pejorative term. he decided that they were gonna cut funding to Meals on Wheels. So this is a reality, guys. This is
It wasn't-
happening. Can't do
Linda,
anything, say anything at town meeting about it this year, right, this town meeting.
No, it
Right.
would be for fall, Linda.
Do we know, what is the time frame for putting things together for the folks? I assume that the town meeting, special town meeting, that date will be announced at the end of this town meeting usually,
Or
The-
right afterwards.
right after
The
it's right.
deadlines
So-
would be sensitive to what specific day they picked,
Right,
but I think.
but I assume that this probably, if there's gonna be something that has to be put together, it's gotta be done by the end of July, basically.
It depends if it's a September or October special town meeting.
No, I
Okay.
think it has to be sooner than that. We would have to have this together by the middle of June.
Okay. All right, so this will also be on our June sixth probably
Absolutely.
agenda.
I also,
Go ahead. Jericho, I just want to make a suggestion to you. I think this idea needs to be socialized with some of the people in the town, right? Before we do this, right? Like I think maybe Brian, maybe Libby, maybe some
Yeah.
other folks, Jericho, that you might want to go to and say, hey, this is something we're thinking of doing, is there support for this?
so I've got, I've been waiting to hear back from, admin about how they want us to go, like, if there's a preferred or optimal way for us to go with the budget allocation process that we've been discussing, like the explicit request and linking it to some sort of increase based on cost of living. I think we absolutely need to discuss this, with people, with finance, with admin, with, anyone who is impacted by loss of federal grants, I think will understand this, and that is impacting a couple of departments as well. I'm curious to see what the response will be, but I hopefully by that May 30th, I will have heard back and have kind of at least a plan for how we do the request process, how we adjust for inflation, et cetera, how we, go about doing these kinds of out of cycle or emergency or contingency planning. And I think there is appetite for contingency planning, especially if we have this set up as like revolver is the wrong term, but rotating in and out of free cash with whatever is not used. And we have very tight restraints around when it can be enacted, then I think it's more palatable. But I think I have an idea of what your notion here is, Joanna. And I'll shop around is the wrong word, but I'm gonna start talking to people about what their feeling on it is.
Okay.
Okay. All righty, so at this point, what we are preparing to do is a formal request. And I'm not talking about the special fund now. I'm talking about just funding for next cycle.
Substance misuse and human
for both.
services.
And right now, it's been $650 for human services for the past bunch of years, and we've had this $175 for substance misuse, which is a total of
825, right?
$825.
Did I do the math right?
$825. And, minimally, we would like to request level funding. However, in light of everything we've just talked about, we know, and we can't really use the judge that we, as this past year, had more than almost double the request for the money that we had, because that's not necessarily a good measure. But we do know that the needs are going up from when $650 was given and that $175. So we had talked about asking level funding plus cost of inflation cost of living over those years. And the last time we met, we talked basically $825 plus maybe 15% on top of that. Because that number can be gotten, but Jericho,
So
the math.
I would just, I might approach this in a slightly different way, right? Because I think that I think that we should lay this out to do over a period of 3 years, right? Not just approach this as the next year. I think we should say, we're looking ahead. We know these agencies, we know their operating budgets. And, yes, the cost of inflation is relevant, but I think what we want to show is that there is a need for this money. And I think we have shown that I think we should go back and say, basically figure out the percentage of the increases that were requested over the past 3 years, right? So you know what I'm saying, 21, 22, 23, 24, what was the request? What were we able to fund? So we want to show those numbers and the percentage of growth in the request. And then I think we want to say, our goal is to take 825 to 1.3 million, right? And you want to say, okay, we want to take it from 825 total up to 950. And then we want
Right.
to take it from 950 to 1.1. And then we want to take it from 1.1 to 1.3. And then we will reevaluate this. Because I think what we want to really talk about in this request is that when we do these, and I think we can speak to this because most of my colleagues on this committee, we've been doing this now for a while. We have these organizations who request $100,000 or more. And what we are essentially doing is providing real support to those organizations. And I think we should list those. And I think we should list how long we've given them over $100,000. And I think the argument that we're trying to make is that we want to separate out what I'm going to call operational support from seeding new programs. And I think that this is the type of reflective exercise that this committee should be doing and analyzing in terms of how we have deployed these funds. Because we really want to separate out the money that we've given away into what I'm going to call operational support versus seeding new programs. Right. And I think then you get this argument that we can do more, right? And that we don't want to take away from the organizations that we provide operational support to, because those are in fact essential services to Nantucket. Right. So I think that we have to make an argument, and we're not going to do this today. And also I have to go in a few minutes. But I think that starts to build a financial case for how we deploy these funds. And I think that we have and can make some fairly sophisticated analysis of what we've been doing and what the impact is. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, it does. And I do like the idea of a 3-year plan because it shows that we are looking down the road and we're planning out, and we have a better shot, I think, of getting a gradual increase as opposed to getting it all. I'd rather do that than be getting a no back.
Well, I also, I think that we need to demonstrate flexible thinking, right, around this entire issue. And I think we need to demonstrate the fact that we have information and expertise and analysis of what's been happening, because I think that for both the Finance Committee and the Select Board to separate out the concept of seeding new programs and operational support is very important. Like, I feel very strongly about this.
Right.
I have been discussing with Brian off and on for a couple of years now, how we need to there needs to be there needs to be some partitioning of this allocation process, because it doesn't match the needs of some of the biggest grantees that we issue funds to. And it's not the best way to do the process. There are going to be implications on this. I don't know what they are yet, and I'd like to think about it a bit. But and then I also think, in addition to, because what Joanna, your argument, and correct me if I'm wrong here, your argument is that the needs themselves are increasing. The actual need for aid is increasing.
Yes.
I also want us to be addressing the fact that $650,000 is worth less than it was when it was originally allocated.
Right.
And I think we need to be I think that there are two approaches on that. You're saying that there's an increased need here, and we should step that up over time. But I would also like us to acknowledge that the amount of money we have allocated over for the last couple of years has decreased in absolute
Yeah.
terms, and that we need an
Yeah.
ongoing system to match that.
Right.
So I
But
think.
both things can be true. Both things are true at the same time.
No,
Right.
agreed, and I think we need to argue for both. But yeah, I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah, getting to that 950 is just getting us to that 15%. Like
that's- That's just level funding in a fundamental
Exactly.
way.
Exactly.
And you know, I do not believe that Nantucket has had its price increase at the same rate as everywhere else on Nantucket. And that sensitivity, sorry, the same,
As
sorry, anywhere else. The same rate of increase has nonlinear effects on us because a increase in fuel costs impacts the increase of every good sold on Nantucket far more than it does someplace on the mainland. So
Right.
it's complicated, but we need to at least be addressing it directly.
So we have. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I have to scoot. Is there anything else that's urgent before I go? Cause I think I break the quorum and I'm sorry.
I think we can, we do have, the next thing would be talking about the review of still the report, and we have to establish that meeting coming up in probably June, which will be separate, so it won't be on June 6th, but sometime in June, we have to establish, we'll do it on a Friday morning also.
Yeah.
So, Joanne, do you have another Friday morning that would be open in June, or anyone else here for that matter?
Hang
could
on
be
one
the
second. Once you have established a quorum, a member can leave.
Okay, all right. Well, that's
Okay.
good. So
Which is
I could do the 13th. I cannot do the 20th or the 27th.
Okay. So it looks like we may have 3 Fridays in a row, so we'll
Right.
shoot for June 13th for that meeting. All right. Thank you, Joanna. Have a
Thank you.
good weekend. Let's hope that we don't get completely rained out. All right.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, bye. Okay, so just to wrap up the formal request on funding, we've got 2 separate things we're talking about. We're talking about, does any discussion on what Joanna just proposed of a 3-year stepped increase?
Makes sense.
To explore at least.
Yeah.
To explore that, okay,
So, pardon me, Madam Chair.
yes,
What we have is 3 allocation related questions, if
Right.
I'm correct. There's the process by which we ask for and receive confirmation of grant totals for the fiscal year.
right,
Then there is a process to increase it to match rising needs, which is Joanna's 3-step process.
right,
And then there is a cost of living question for the fund, a inflationary index or a value
Right.
index.
Right.
It's just, I want
Right.
to keep that straight. Okay.
yes. All right, and then we have to have more discussion about the special emergency fund that would be presented for town meeting in the fall. So that's a separate, we're talking about two different areas. So we definitely have agenda items for the future. All right,
Question about a warrant article. Who would be the presenter of the article? Us or
It
Does
could
the
not be us. I do not,
select board article?
I'm gonna
Linda?
defer to Linda on this.
yeah,
It'd be the select board putting it in for us.
okay,
And then if they rejected, if they choose not to.
support
We
it.
don't.
It could be a citizens warrant
It
at
could
that
be,
point, right?
yeah, one of us would have to do it. Okay.
I would not suggest any one of us. If they refuse to do it on our behalf, I suggest it not be one of us and it be someone else who is an interested party.
Order.
Right, right. Okay,
Very astute there, yes.
I think that was good.
okay. All right, so.
John
moving-
had his hand up, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry, John. Thank you.
That's all right. I just went to check my calendar. June 13th, I will be probably traveling.
Okay. So, ready? We'll keep that in mind. If you can let us know, if that's,
I'm sure I'll be traveling, and it
oh,
won't.
you are gonna be traveling.
Oh, I
There's
know,
not-
I just went to look at what was scheduled. I
Okay.
didn't have a calendar in front of me.
Okay,
And we might have to pick a different weekday.
yeah, we may have to go to a different weekday then if, I'll get back to Joanne and see where she also has. And Linda, if you have, a block of time, for sure, your schedule is busy. Another weekday and time. If you can let
What
us know.
week? What week?
Well, it's that maybe that June 13th week. John, when are you gonna be traveling that week? Is it
Well,
just that?
I'm going for the, I think I'm leaving the 13th and I'll be back the big Monday or Tuesday of the next week.
Okay, so it's just
don't-
specifically the 13th is not good that week
Well,
for
the
you.
13th is, yes, is absolutely, we're, I'm making
Okay.
the effort to get off the island and celebrate an anniversary.
Okay, well, congratulations. All right. So we won't meet on the 13th, but that week of either June 16th or June 9th, do you have any openings, Linda, that would be best that, and then I can get to Joanna?
I can't do the 12th of June and I can't do the 17th of June.
Okay.
And
Is there
and the
any-
19th, and the 19th of June is a holiday.
Oh,
Juneteenth.
that's right. That's right.
So if you want to
um,
meet on the 11th of June, I'm fine. 10th of June, I'm fine.
Okay, and any particular time of day?
Mornings are always better.
Okay. And Sue, your schedule will be more open at that point?
It will. It'll be crazy because my event is the 12th, but I'm
Okay.
sure I
Oh,
can,
let's not do it then.
I can carve, let's try not to do it on the 12th.
Okay, all right, so maybe we'll try, I'll check with Joanna because her schedule is pretty tight, so we'll try for June 10th and with a backup the 11th.
Okay.
And we let everyone know as soon as we can nail that down, but it won't be the 13th.
Or the 12th.
And for letting us know because we're still, needing to have quorum and so we need everyone to be there. So we we'll make all kinds of adjustments necessary. All right. Okay. Anything else? With the CHS and CRC, going back to the report that we had and we need to revisit that and I am flip-flopping back and forth now because, I recognize that the stuff that we even discussed and did this morning is very specific. And I'm looking at Sue because yesterday I was feeling more that we should be blending the two organizations and making subcommittees, et cetera. But this level of detail, we're down in the trenches. And I still see a need for almost like the in the trench guidance.
I'm the last couple weeks, I did the same thing. I was I was really leaning towards the idea of a blended board. I think there are some serious concerns of mine about this body has strayed pretty far from its explicit mission, which
Right.
is 8 to 12 meetings in the fall.
Right.
The need for us to do this has been clear and consistent. We need to find a more efficient way to do it. I don't know if that means we subdivide into work groups here. I don't know quite the best approach to it. But it's clear that there should be some kind of structural variation
Mhm.
based upon how we're doing things, because we meet more than I think any non-regulatory board does. I believe.
No,
How frequently is the cadence on like CPC?
we meet once a month, but in the fall, obviously, we meet a lot more. But there are other groups like the town council work group. There are other groups that are meeting more regularly. That Concom, we meet every 2 weeks, you know, for 4 hours, that kind of stuff. But I just have
Concom's
to
okay
put my
with
2
me.
cents in here. I am adamantly opposed to combining, adamantly opposed. Because I've been on both sides of this thing. I was on Human Services, I'm on COA, I'm on CRC. This is my 3rd go around on CRC. The
Linda,
reason
what-
CRC
Linda.
was put in place is because it was very specific and it could not be combined with the other groups. It could not. That was created on its own to deal just with the grant situation. I'm absolutely opposed to combining it with something else. I've already been there and we created this for a reason and we just needed to get our act together as far as organization, which Jericho's
What-
doing.
I'm definitely working on that, and the issues that we've faced have been primarily the quorum has been difficult. Allocation of time has been difficult,
Mhm.
and making sure that we have consistent meetings from availability has been difficult.
Mhm.
We are very much in the top 5% of non-regulatory boards in terms of frequency of meeting. And it is difficult to maintain that kind of tempo and to get additional members. And so we have a combination of, this is heavy, difficult work that it's hard to explain the value of to people because it's hard to do work.
Right, but if I could jump in on that, I think that expectations need to be laid out. You know, when I joined CRC because I am CHS and I'm representing from CHS, it was only the heavy time was October, November, maybe November through January, and then that was it. And I think people are willing to give time as long as they know what's expected. And things have changed,
Keep
so
moving the bar.
we keep moving the
Yes.
bar. And I think anyone that commits to this has to understand that we have to be reactive to what's happening. So it may be that we're meeting more than once a month. We're meeting, you know, to be flexible, that it is a potentially 12-month a year commitment.
But, and it is going to have to be at least quarterly plus the grant
Right.
cycle.
Right,
The question is, do we want to funnel all grant work through this committee? Or do we want to have this committee return to its core mission of administering the human services and substance misuse grants, and then spin up another body, not necessarily a board or committee, maybe an advisory group, maybe something else that handles the out of cycle stuff.
right.
We could
I think
get,
this group should handle all grant and be that our focus. You keep us together, you set up a meeting schedule, we can count on it. And we move on with an organization because we haven't been able to get a grip on this for several years and we know why. And now that we have a good chairman and we have you and we have a format that you're working on, I think we can move forward in a very well-organized way.
So and I may use the wrong word here, but the charter says that we have someone from finance, and I do really, I very much think that you have to have some, because Joanna brings a different view than I certainly have.
Absolutely.
Because she is on finance. We also, by charter, are supposed to have someone from NPEDC, and that is where we
Problems.
we have problems. No one wants to do it. And I understand.
Working on that, just so you know, I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. I'm waiting till after the election, but I'm working on it.
so one thing we should explore is a limited bylaw change for special town meeting to change the makeup of the committee. So that maybe we could release the ex officio positions from being allocated from where they are, although I think it is, I mean, originally there was a select board member on.
Oh, yes, there was.
Oh, yes, there was.
Until
I
Doug
think-
Bennett.
Oh, it was, okay, that makes more sense. Now, what I am somewhat curious about, I think that I think there are a lot of people who want to participate in this organization. We have slots that we cannot allocate to them because they are allocated to an agency that doesn't want to assign anyone to do it. So
Right.
what I think we can do, and probably all agree on, and I would love if you guys want, we can't vote because we're sub quorum right now.
Right.
For next meeting, we should maybe think about this. We just want to substitute the requirement, like change nothing else about the contract review committee except some of the ex officio positions. That's something that we could get done, have ready to go. The second special town meeting date is announced. It's something that would satisfy one of the major concerns and one of the major reasons we wanted to blend the two committees in the first place. So if you guys want to do that, I think that's something we can all agree that's going to directly assist the process immediately and not have significant implications for the structure and quorum and mission.
So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna look at people who have been around for much longer than I. The reason for the ex officio positions, I understand finance for sure. NPEDC, on paper, I really understand why there should be a melding because those are the folks that are looking at the community from a different planning and a different perspective than just human services. Human services really needs to be part of what they're doing. So I think in my mind, it was done this way, so there would be that input. But I see it should be a two-way,
Well,
but could it be done differently?
Linda, I'm not up to date on what's currently going on with the restructuring or mission statement, but I know that NPDDC is attempting to implement a revision in their structure and change on who will serve on the board. When it was in the early stages, I was contacted about getting a human services representative of some sort or another onto their
Right.
side of things.
Right.
I don't think that's still present in their current iteration.
And in a broader sense, I don't believe we can afford to wait on whatever their planning process is to solve what is a significant concern of ours, which is making quorum each week. So my suggestion, and actually I'll make it my request to you guys when we are back at quorum or better, is a motion to start investigating this. And then a brief idea of possibly just swapping we could look at it as being, we're looking at all of the ex officio positions, or we could just swap NPEDC to an at-large position,
Large.
and then with a promise for us to look back at it. Sorry.
John?
Well, I know that the original composition, there were two designated members from the Human Services Committee, and there hasn't been anybody except you, Virginia, from there.
No, Sue and I are both.
You are the Human Services Committee
Right,
representative.
so we are the two from
Yeah.
Human Services.
Okay,
Yourself and Linda are
I'm at
participants
large.
at large
large.
right now. And there will be an open position there and so
We will have an open position come up for this. What we need to do as members of this group is we need to go out and find somebody to put their name in for Dorothy's position.
right. Does anyone have suggestions? Because honestly, I think that this is you need someone who has the broad thinking and as we know, it's a commitment. So I'm offhand, I don't have anyone if anyone has any suggestions, I certainly will be happy to talk to someone.
I'll bring it up
And-
actually at the COA, which we have a meeting next week, next Wednesday. I'll bring it up
Mhm.
there.
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
it's been a month already.
okay.
I can't believe it.
Because the applications are due, I think, May 13th.
I've suggested it to a couple of people, as just noting that there would be some useful expertise added
Mhm.
from a couple of people. I think that as many, like, as broad a net as we possibly can cast, because
I actually now I'm thinking of some people that aren't necessarily involved with human services, but I've been working with some volunteers that have really solid I'm gonna say business backgrounds that are semi-retired and active on the island that I now that I'm thinking, I can approach a few people.
and I would suggest cast as broad a net as you can.
Yeah.
Because the more representative this body is, the better the outputs will be.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm
Yep.
afraid, I'm afraid all my contemporaries are not around anymore.
Well, John, you are one of my heroes because, I just think that your sage wisdom and your years of participation are extremely important, so.
Well,
Thank,
I have to say I defer to Linda. Linda's been at it even longer than I.
and Linda, I appreciate your, deep understanding of rules, regulation and how things operate because, you keep us on our toes and you keep us doing the right thing. So thank you.
I'm a
Thank you.
town wonk.
And of course, Sue, I appreciate your work also and Joanna. So thank you. So let's shake the trees and get some applicants because May 13th is that deadline.
Yeah.
New business, if we have no more to say there, let's go on to new business. I have one thing. One of the organizations that we have funded through the Youth Behavioral Health Grant, and we are funding if the town passes our warrant, is Horses for Mental Health in the Herd. I had the pleasure of meeting Michelle Soderberg a few weeks ago. And this past Monday, when I was off island, I passed by her East Sandwich facility and had the chance to go through, meet the horses and go through her activities.
Oh, cool.
And then on Wednesday, when I was on the way back, I was on the boat with 6 young ladies from Nantucket that participated in her program on Wednesday. We have many people that we have funded and that are doing fabulous work. She's doing something differently. On May 10th at the library, it's a Saturday night, 5:30 to 7:30. She is putting on an awareness event for the island. There's a film that she participated in that she has a 48-hour release of this film. So it will be inviting people, learning more about the program, then watching a portion of this film. And then the director of the film is also going to be available via Zoom to ask questions. I highly recommend if you can make it there to come. It's on the and I sort of helped put this together because she's not from Nantucket. Her husband for the last 17 or 20 years is one of the tradespeople that comes over every day by boat and goes back home. So he's more familiar with the island, but from trades. So she's learned an awful lot in the past year and a half. But I had met her at an event at the Dreamland, and we started talking about that. She understands, and she's doing exactly what we have said we'd like these seed organizations. They get money from us, but eventually they have to do their own fundraising. They have to become sustainable. And she knows that. So this is the first step. The Dreamland.
When is this again?
Saturday night, May 10th, basically 5 to 7:30, I think it'll be.
The Dreamland?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, at the library, in the big room up in the library.
What time did you say? 5 something?
5 o'clock to probably 7:30, and it can't be a fundraising event because, the library can't do but this is an awareness. So she wants to explain what this is all about. So, the dream.
Do we have a flyer that I can post anywhere? Is there
Yes.
somebody can
Yes.
send me something and I'll post it?
Right, I will send you, something digital, Linda.
That'd be great.
All right, and what'll happen, since it's at the library, it's gonna be on the library's calendar, so. The library, if you're not aware, does have a position, her name is Lisa Lothan. And I believe she is a clinical social worker.
Yeah.
And her mission is to bring these type of things, so when I called her and said, got this person, she needs a place. She immediately said yes, but it can't be fundraising. So this is an awareness. Now, of course, we're going to be talking about what she does and how she does. And at the end, someone's going to walk away with a flyer that has a QR code and, would say, please, you can donate, but it can't be a fundraising event. Michelle, as she's explained to me, she spends her day in the muck, with the horses, so this is completely new to her, but she is one of those people, when you meet her face to face, she is a gem. And the progress and the results that she has gotten with the young people that have participated, she has people that go back over and over, and the program changes all according to the day, so.
I have never received a unsolicited letter of support for one of the programs that we funded from one of the individuals who used it.
Mhm.
I have received 3 from this organization. 2 digitally, and then 1 person who stopped me.
Right.
And asked about the program and wanted to report
Right.
at how amazing and effective it was.
Yeah, Linda, I know that you're a horse person. The horses that she has are specially trained. I have to tell you, my experience with horses have been both good and negative. My last opportunity on a horse, I was thrown off the horse. It was an Icelandic horse, and whatever, he didn't want to go out because it was icy, and we should have listened to that. But
Those horses are mean in the first place.
yeah, I hugged a 22-pound horse. She showed me how you hug a horse and how they learn, they'll follow breathing patterns and they sense your heartbeat. I was just blown away. That's all I could say. But May 10th, I will send you we will send out a flyer that will be there, but the library has it on their calendar, so it'll be advertised there. She's going to be sending out to the organizations, to get people to come. So it's both for organizations and for individuals. So we're hoping that there'll be some of the students that have, or the young people that have participated will be there. So I'm very excited about this. So if you can, mark your calendar, May 10th. Any other new business? Any other new business? All right. So we have established meeting dates. So the next time that we're going to get together, and I've got my notes all over the place here, and I've got to pull up my calendar.
May 30th.
May
30th.
30th, May 30th, and then June 6th, and then we will pick a day that is not the 13th, hopefully the 10th or the 11th, and I'll reach out to Joanna and get that firm, and we'll get that out to you so you can put that on your calendar. All right. We can't adjourn because we don't have a quorum, so, the first item on. Right, the first item on the next meeting will be adjournment. Now, Linda, do I formally have to close the meeting, or do we just say goodbye? I'm not sure, what the appropriate thing is, since we don't have quorum.
We can't continue a meeting to another date like that, not anymore. We used to be able to do that, so we just say goodbye.
Okay, and then on June 6th, do we have to formally adjourn from this meeting?
You can't
No?
adjourn at a different date, no.
Oh, so
So
we just.
We're just having a
Yeah,
coffee clash here.
Okay, so we just say goodbye, and then we see everyone on May 30th, and we start our meeting as normal with the quorum.
Yeah. And she can simply say that the meeting was ended by the chairman.
Okay, very good. So, have a wonderful Daffy weekend. Let's pray that it's not a complete washout. People put an awful lot of effort into this, and I know there's a whole lot of people coming over also, so I guess we'll see a lot of raincoats and whatever, so enjoy and thank you.
Yellow slickers.
Yellow
Yes.
slippers, that's right, we all have those. But thank you all for your time and effort and passion in getting the work done that we have to do. So have a great day.
You
Bye.
too.
Bye-bye. All right,
Thank you. Bye.
okay, thank you.